Okay, my name is Hua. I'm calling from Raleigh, North Carolina.
Hua from Raleigh, North Carolina. What's on your mind?
Right. Well, a number of things. I will probably be calling back a number of times in the future too. But today you talked about the whole issue with environmental justice, and that got me thinking about a number of things. One of them being, so I do a lot of work surrounding environmental justice issues here locally as far as activism goes. And I've done research fellow at the local EPA at the Research Triangle Park. And first thing that crossed my mind was just how I feel like EPA admin is very derelict in their duty in terms of addressing environmental concerns and or just like especially on the research aspect. I was involved in a couple of labs that was doing research on PFAS. That's kind of
forever chemicals.
Forever chemicals.
Yeah, exactly. And I'm free to say this because now I'm not affiliated with the EPA. And one thing for sure is that the admin at the EPA that's in charge of the research aspects of EPA, I don't know if it's still the same thing. And this is probably going to cost my future if I ever decide to go back to work for EPA, but I don't care. The admin at the time when I was a research fellow were primarily comprised of people who were affiliated or directly coming from the Department of Defense. And they put in a lot of restrictions as to like what the researchers get to, which PFAS compound the researchers get to study.
Right. Because so they're using the other ones, right?
Right. Right. You're right. Exactly. And
how long,
also the other is,
how long have those people been at the EPA?
I've only been a research fellow there for a year, but I imagine they've been there for a while now, and I don't imagine them leaving anytime soon. So,
you don't know how long they've been there?
Probably longer than I have.
Well, no, I don't doubt that they've been there for longer than a year.
Well, yeah.
but I guess my point is that like one of the agendas of the Trump administration was a full-on assault at the EPA. Secretary.
Attrition. Yes.
By attrition, and I mean they put in personnel, political appointees who are going to make it relentless and horrible for EPA. And I've talked to an EPA lawyer in the past who was working there during the Trump years, and they were younger. And they were recently in, and they're like, I'm just trying to hang in there with the hopes that Biden will come in, or not Biden, but that Trump will be gone. And they said like the attrition was enormous because people were just like so demoralized. And it's you can read all these stories came out like I would say 2 years ago, almost to now. Right after Biden was that all these stories about how the EPA was decimated. And my sense is that the EPA has not been a priority for this administration. It was not to say that they've consciously tried to assault it, but it's like, I think there's like a limited amount of resources in terms of just like where their energies go towards. And my sense is the EPA has not been one of those places where they have, dedicated a lot of energy to.
Yeah, that has been what I'm getting as well. Even after I left, I have a couple of colleagues. It's kind of it's not like that suddenly the research side of things is thriving, even though we probably should invest in research just because there's so many emerging contaminants. The algal bloom is an emerging problem with algae emitting cyanotoxins, like I can name a few, microcystin or anatoxin and so forth. But, as far as I know, the research is not like it's flourishing right now because of Biden. And I feel like one other issue is this is also a labor issue. During the Trump administration, which was when I was there for about a year, I think in 2018, I think, or 2019, he, I think, went and basically push for elimination of basically, how do I put this? He kept the union from being able to have a physical office. So basically that just means EPA scientists and staff and employees, if they have grievance or things like that, they no longer have a physical space or physical office to go to talk to someone and say, I want to file a grievance. I have literally the office at the RTP Research Triangle, that office used to be right next to the cafeteria. I've seen how after the Trump push, okay, you no longer can get a physical space. That office got turned into it got whitewashed and became kind of a storage space for computers and stuff like that.
Let me just read two paragraphs here from a piece in the New York Times from I guess this is in March of last year. Yeah. March of 2021. Yeah. Mr. Trump's first administrator. I mean, just to remind people, Scott Pruitt was from Oklahoma, if I remember correctly, and he was the Attorney General in Oklahoma, and literally his knowledge of the EPA was from lawsuits to prevent the EPA from doing their job in Oklahoma. That was his expertise.
Exactly.
And he removed the agency's web on climate change. He fired and barred independent scientific advisors who had received grants from the EPA. That was a policy the court ultimately found to be illegal. But, I mean, you've already pushed those people away. Then he replaced them with industry representatives. He rolled back scientifically supported policies such as limiting pollution from trucks with rebuilt engines after meetings with executives and lobbyists. Pruitt's successor, Andrew Wheeler, faced accusations that he repeatedly ignored and shut out his own scientists in decisions such as issuing rule curbing but not banning asbestos. Declaring the health effects of chlorofyrose, a widely used pesticide, unresolved, despite years of agency research proving its danger to infants, pushing through a policy which died in the courts ultimately to limit the type of health and epidemiological studies could be used to justify regulations. Who's going to stick around there? Who's going to stay, right? I mean, honestly, that's
right.
That's the agenda,
right?
And the thing is that this is people have a hard time understanding this. Imagine if you had, let's say, just Twitter, for example. If somebody takes over Twitter and it gets saddled with that debt, and there's all those people who have left. The idea of being able to attract these people to come back, it's not going to happen overnight, and it's the only thing they would do. No. Imagine you were in charge of 12 Twitters or 15 Twitters, and you come in, and it's you got to prioritize which Twitter you're going to rebuild. I mean, that's basically what's happening here. Hopefully, if there's we'll start to see more action on that side, but appreciate the... I don't know if we will, but I hope we do. But listen, I got to jump. I appreciate the call.
Yeah, that's all right.
All right, call back in another time.
I will call back in the future.
Thanks. Bye.
Yeah, definitely. Thank you.
Bye-bye.